Welcome to Pathways to Success, the podcast where we explore the power of education, learning, and the unique career journeys that shape exemplary individuals. I'm your host, Ali, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of neuroscience, the science of the brain and behavior. Joining me is Ramine, a current undergraduate student studying neuroscience. Before university, she studied A-level chemistry with myself, and today she's here to share how the foundation shaped her studies, what it's really like to dive into the world of the brain, and where she hopes her degree will take her next. So sit back, get inspired, and let's dive in. So Ramine, welcome to Pathways to Success.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the time to join us today because I know you have a very busy schedule and it's always hard to make time like this. So we really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that this conversation will help individuals who are also in a similar pathway to what you're doing currently, that are interested in maybe going into neuroscience in the future. So you can give them some prompts on what to be doing in the meantime before they get started. So before we get started into the real nitty gritty, for just to get to know you a little bit, for those who might be hearing your name for the first time or that don't know you yet, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
So in 3 words, is a bit of a difficult question, but I would say that I'm outgoing. And I do like to talk a lot, and I'm
Do you
also
remember that?
pretty ambitious. Like I have a lot of career goals in mind, and also in other aspects of my life. I have goals who I want to be like 5, 10 years down the future. And for my third one, I'd say I'm a people person. I get along with people really well. And I would say that's a result of studying psychology and neuroscience.
So what's one fun fact about you that people are usually surprised to learn?
One fun fact
Hmm.
is in year 11, the night before my physics exam, I was playing Subway Surfers and my high score was like 5 million. So I would say that's pretty impressive, to be honest.
Wow. So playing Subway Surfers the night before your physics
Yeah.
exam. That's just as you would one would do. That's brilliant.
I ended
Okay.
up getting an 8, by the way, in
Oh
my
wow, that's really good.
physics
That's from
exam. So
that goes to show you
that
need
was
a
worth
break
it.
from studies as well, right?
Yeah.
You need to have a right balance. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
definitely.
I think that is a really fantastic fact. Right, so we're going to dive straight into your studies, what you're doing currently. So just to kind of get to know you about your why you chose to do what you're doing currently. What would you say was what first got you interested into neuroscience?
So what first got me interested? Well, I wouldn't say it was like a specific moment where this is what happened and yeah, I want to do neuroscience now. I would say it's just like an experience or like past experiences that led up to me wanting to do it. So one thing I'd say about myself is that I like people watching. I like watching people go by and like actually seeing what they're doing. And again, like because of studying neuroscience, it's led me to understand why people are doing what they do and, that sort of stuff. One particular moment, when I was 16, I used to work at Legoland and I used to work in concessions. So it's just like candy floss, popcorn, that sort of stuff. And so Legoland is obviously targeted towards young kids. And there was this one moment I was just standing in my stand and there was like a massive puddle in front of my stand. It was raining that day, like quite a bit. And it was really interesting to see like parents would go by with their kids and each parent would have a different reaction to this puddle, right? You'd have some parents who would encourage their kids to go in and they would also go in themselves, like, their clothes would get dirty, their shoes would get dirty. And then you'd have other parents shouting at their kids like, don't go near that puddle, one hand gripping the pram and the other one trying to pull the kid's hood back from the puddle. Because they're obviously stressed about going home, having to wash the clothes, probably getting in the car back home and the kids complaining, and it's just like that certain moment stood out to me because it's the same puddle and it's the same like situation, but you have completely different reactions. And as a result of studying psychology and neuroscience, I found out that it depends a lot on like your like a person's upbringing. That's the psychological aspect of it. So the parents who were going to like jump in a puddle with them, they probably had an upbringing where their parents weren't as strict, so parents. And on the other hand, the parents who were trying to avoid it, they probably had a stricter upbringing. Their household was a bit more stricter, and they were just reacting to stress because that's just how they were taught as a kid themselves. So it doesn't necessarily make them a bad parent in and of itself, but it's just that's just how they were taught themselves. And also like um from like a neurological aspect, it's just like in neuroscience, there's a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is what fires your fear response. So they've just learned to like be scared of the puddle, and they've learned that it's not okay. And then as a result, the kid also learns from their parents. So it's something it's like, and they mirror their parents' behavior. So they also go on to learn that a puddle isn't okay to like, it's something I should be scared of, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's the small moments like these, like obviously a kid is like 4 or 5 years old, and it goes on to shape the rest of life. Like it seems so small, so irrelevant, but I personally, for me, it's the like behind the scenes of these small moments
Hmm.
that really, and I just want to know more. Like, why does this
Sure,
happen? I just used to
of
question a lot of
course.
it.
I think
So
when you are out in the world, you make so many different observations, and you always wonder like, why would one do this thing? Or it makes you think about maybe what's the thing behind it, someone behaving the way they are, maybe, for example. So that makes you more curious, I guess, to find out more about it. So I know you studied A-level chemistry and you did other A-levels as well. Did you do biology as well?
yeah, I did biology too.
And this was psychology was the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, during your studies at those subjects at A level, did that experience influence your decision to pursue neuroscience? Would you say as well?
Psychology definitely, because psychology is linked a lot to my degree. Obviously, I'm studying psychology and neuroscience. Chemistry and biology, well, for chemistry anyway, I wouldn't say those two subjects were the main reason or they played a lot of part, but I would say that because they're so complex, like they're really hard A levels. For example, in chemistry, you're learning like the subject I hated was ligand substitution.
Did
Ligand
you?
substitution, NMR. They were just so hard for me to get my head around because they're so complex, and over 2 years, I got used to like putting up with that complexity that I'm now comfortable with learning about new and like challenging ideas.
Hmm.
So the skills I learned from studying those subjects are transferable skills I can apply in my degree, because obviously it does get a lot more harder in university, I must say. So whilst I didn't find A levels fun, they did give me a good foundation and set me up for university, I would say.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. I think the things you're expected to do in A levels in the short space of time, and the skills you have to pick up, and the mindset you have to build during that time makes a big way to things like the university life and future employment as well. Definitely, I think the skills that you definitely develop during that time is important for next steps in your career. Now, one of the things that obviously you mentioned about is doing neuroscience. Some of the things you mentioned about it kind of got you interested in it. Was that your thing that you always wanted to do, or was that something you had to? Did you have other careers you initially thought about before pursuing the degree of neuroscience? Was there something else you were interested in doing before that?
Yeah, I was interested, I think, with my subjects, biochem, psych, the standard dentistry medicine route,
Hmm.
but it didn't work out for me.
Hmm.
So I had to look into other options, and I would say my dad influenced my decision a lot. So my
What
dad
was it
loved,
that? What did he do, or what was the influence that he had that helped you make
he
that decision?
he didn't like do something, but my dad's dad, so my grandfather, he has Parkinson's disease. So
Right,
because
right.
of that, my dad has done a lot of research into neuroscience like himself. He loves neuroscience, he loves psychology. And he changes every single topic into neuroscience. Whatever you start talking to my dad about, he'll bring neuroscience into it. And it's just his own learning. Like he was one who sort of introduced it to me. And then once I started studying it myself, like we have conversations all the time. This is what I studied in my lecture, and we talk about it for ages. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say my dad was probably the one who influenced my decision quite a lot.
Mm. I think when you have like a kind of thing you can relate to, it makes it really much more interesting because then you want to find out for yourself as well. Like, what
Yeah,
is it that
definitely.
causes the Parkinson's and what's the, kind of science behind it? I suppose it
Yeah,
makes you
definitely,
wonder
exactly.
more and more curious about it. Definitely. No, brilliant. So, obviously, now you decided to do neuroscience. Did you do any prior work experience or anything that helped your application during the university application process?
I didn't really do any. work experience in neuroscience because I was so set on dentistry for a long
Yeah.
time. But for my personal statement, I tried to do like extracurriculars. I'm trying to think back. It was such a long time ago now. What did
Yeah.
I do?
But I think the work experience you would have done even in the dentistry setting or anywhere else would have still given
Yeah,
you a lot of skills.
yeah. In my personal statement, I definitely did apply my dentistry work experience to like my neuroscience personal statement. But yeah, I don't think I did any actual work experience for neuroscience because it's such a niche like area. It's not really that looked into, I'd say. So if I can't remember if I tried to find any honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's fine. Because I think a lot of the times it doesn't have to be specifically related to it. It obviously helps, I suppose, to get you a feel of what it's like, maybe potentially, and then it helps with the application process potentially. But again, a lot of the work experiences you do, they are transferable in many fields. So, I mean, like you said, with the dentistry one would have really much helped with this anyway as well. Right. So let's move on to like just what life is like a neuroscience student, really. So, for listeners who might not know, how would you describe what studying neuroscience actually involves?
So neuroscience, that's such a hard question. It's had so many different what would you say? I'd say neuroscience about like understanding everything. Once you understand the brain, then you're just understanding everything. It's like a cheat code to like understanding humans. So yeah, what else? Something else I found really fascinating was that um I I mean, as a kid, I read the entire Harry Potter series, and like now that I think about it, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that someone could, write an entire like seven whole entire books. I think it's seven about this world. It's just so crazy to me. So, how does someone's brain, you know, think about something so complex and then make a book out of it? Or what else in neuroscience world like? When like you're overthinking text, someone's texted you something
Yeah.
and they texted it in a certain type of way. I was saying to my dad the other day, like this person added a full stop at the end of their text. I was like,
Mhm.
they're angry at me. Or this person didn't put a capital letter in front of their beginning word, they're angry at me. It just seems so passive aggressive. But it's like, what is your brain thinking about? So um, I would say like that's like sort of like this like the theory point of view is how like your neurons are communicating in your brains. Like if you wanna get a bit complex, it's about like action potentials, how your neurons are signaling to other neurons and as a result produce like an emotion or like a movement. And then you have like certain hormones like serotonin, dopamine, how they are playing a part in as like working as like a nervous system. Or I mean, prefrontal cortex, that's a really common word used nowadays. And how is it how I mean, I'm pretty sure you've heard on TikTok how your prefrontal cortex is the last to develop, you're turning 25, etc. This is all neuroscience. So I wouldn't say it's just about memorizing brain structures. Like it's not as tedious as it sounds like, but it's definitely like you do have to memorize some. You need to learn about the mechanisms that go on in your brain. But I would definitely say like it's just so much stuff in one degree, like cognitive psychology, like computing,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
just
I think I
yeah.
think one of the things I would say is what I find really fascinating and interesting as well is how social media platform like Instagram and places like that or your mobile phone is an example of all the different apps that you have on there, and as soon as a notification comes up, they on purpose the notification comes up as a notification in red. So that indicates to you that it's important. So you need to see it. It's like a warning. So I think all of those things is sending a signal to your brain to take action almost immediately. So that's why a
Yeah,
lot of people, they go to their phone and the first thing what they do is open their phone and see which apps have this red icons around them to get them to read those messages on WhatsApp.
yeah,
And it makes you wonder, like, wow, look what's going, like how our brain works and functions. I think it's just really interesting. And then you have, like, for instance, I don't know, like you mentioned about sending a message on text or WhatsApp or something like that. If you write it all in capitals, you read it automatically as this person is shouting at me sending this
yeah,
message, or you start
exactly.
wondering why have they written it in this particular way, why have they put dot 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 at the end, or why is there a full stop, or why is there not a full stop, or things like that. And you're questioning all these things which can make you wonder, like, what is going on. So our brain's always thinking, like, all the time, right? So I think when you start to learn the mechanism behind why we do things the way we do, the human behavior and how our brain functions to certain interactions, it is really fascinating. And I think that's one of the things you probably got you more interested in it as well, I'm assuming. But yeah, I always wondered that, like, why, why do I, like, for example, I'll just open my phone and I've got like notifications in red, all over my apps, all of them are in red. And I know there's something to do with this red thing that they do on purpose to get you to open your apps
Yeah.
and things like that more often. But yeah, anyway, so that's thank you for sharing that. Now, in terms of like you said, it's very wide, so we'll move on to the next bit. So, in terms of like the topics and modules that you're covering in on your degree at the moment, have you found one that's quite really interesting to you more than others?
Yeah, definitely. It is it's a hard question. I couldn't just pick one because
Hmm.
every single module you learn, like it's also like application of knowledge. Like I can't believe this is true. Like wow, I didn't know that. But honestly, if I had to choose, I would definitely say developmental psychology and cognitive neuroscience. So, because my degree is a bit of both with psychology and neuroscience. So for cognitive neuroscience, it's more about how your memory works, how perception works, how like your reasoning works. Just yesterday, not yesterday, sorry, a few days ago, I had a lecture on reasoning, and it seems like why do you reason? Like why do you make decisions like this? And it seems like such a simple concept, like your brain just does it automatically. Once I was actually going through the lecture, once it's being taught to me, it's actually pretty complicated, like to get your head around that this is what your brain's actually doing in real time. And it seems so trivial, but
Mm,
honestly, it's like what's actually happening inside is it's really not simple at all.
of course.
And I'd say with developmental psychology, it's a lot about how you develop from a child through your adulthood. And I really like that one because I feel like you can relate to it a lot. Like it tells you about parenting techniques or attachment styles, or for example, when I was a kid, I used to be really shy. Why am I? Why was I shy before, and now I'm like more confident? Because I've developed over time. And is it that it's because of my nature? Like, what was I genetically born as a shy kid, and then I got nurtured into someone more confident, or like that's the questions that this module answers. So,
Hmm.
and the questions I'm constantly asking myself.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
honestly,
true
it's
because
pretty
from like
interesting.
a
Yeah.
educator's perspective, I see that with a lot of students from early on into kind of as they develop over the years, and some are really quiet to begin with, and then once you see them kind of grow up and to get to a point where or you see them in a different setting as well, like not in a classroom setting, but maybe outside of classroom where they're doing something different, and you see a complete different side to them, and you're just like, whoa, this kid is like this. They actually talk a lot, or they're doing all these activities that you don't expect them to do. So I guess you kind of learn all of those things, and that's really interesting. I'd love to know more about that. So like you're studying and you'll learn more about it, I'm sure, and it'll help you to kind of make judgments on those things and better observations on those sort of circumstances. Okay, right. So I know a lot of people normally have a big jump between, let's say, GCSEs to A levels. And then they really struggle with the aspects of how they transition into GCSE to A levels. But then obviously there's another jump from A levels into degree level. What would you say has been the biggest challenge in transitioning from A level to like university level studies?
Yeah, so honestly, I was not expecting, like, I knew university would be harder, but I wasn't expecting the jump as big as it is, honestly. Like, I thought I was ready for it because the jump from GCSEs to A levels was already pretty big. And then the jump from year 12 to year 13 was probably even bigger. But the jump from year 13 to university, like, I honestly don't think it's talked about enough. Like, the amount of independence you suddenly have. I commute, so I would say it's even more so for a person who lives in university, like in accommodation. But for me, for example, in A levels, you're constantly reminded for things by your teachers. There's structured lessons, there's like a proper specification, this and this is going to come up on the exam. But university is so different because you have to manage your own schedule, and getting your extracurricular activities into it, and just like you're having a social life in general, it's just hard keeping up with everything. There's so much to do. I was saying to like my friend just the other day, like, how is it possible? So we have like 4 or 5 lectures a week for me, and that's how many I have. And I was just saying, how is it possible that I commute to university, the night before I have to make pre-lecture notes, go to the lecture, refine my notes from what the lecturer is saying, go home, fix my notes, then make revision materials, actually revise, do the reading, like the pre-reading, do the post-reading for one lecture. And some of the readings are just like ridiculous. They tell you to read entire books for one lecture. I'm not sure how that's even possible. But
Yeah.
and all of that just for one lecture, and then on top of that, you have assignments to do. I have an essay due in the beginning of November about emotional intelligence, and it's an like the topic that is on. We haven't even done the lecture yet, and the lecture that is gonna be the week before the essay is due, and they
Yeah.
just expect you to start, because they just expect you to do it and do your own research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still like I'm in second year now, but I'm still trying to get the hang of it, what to memorize for an exam, what not to, in A levels is like it's pretty clear, you
Yeah.
know.
I don't know if you remember, but like one of the things I used to kind of talk about during your A-level studies is going to university, you are pretty much on your own. And everything that you
Yeah.
do requires you to do a ton of reading. There's always going to be research skills involved. You're going to be constantly in the books, reading about maybe the recent article about the latest research done on neuroscience related topic you're doing, for instance. And it doesn't stop because you kind of start off with the pre-reading materials you mentioned, then you do your study, your lecture. After that, you got to take the lecture notes all in, and then on top of that, having to read over hundreds of literature reviews and all of those things. It's really tough to do, and they have to juggle between that and some people choose to do, for example, part-time work, and they have to juggle between that as well. And it makes it really tough. And I think I suppose A level to an extent prepares you for that because you have to be really disciplined and organized during your A levels. And I think a lot of people, I mean, you can probably add to this as well. Like, how would you say like your A level studies prepared you for this kind of moment? What things helped you to kind of deal with these sort of circumstances better that you did during A levels, would you say? Or are there things you wish you did during A levels maybe that would have prepared you better for your A levels as well?
I think in A levels, quite especially in year 12, I did fall behind a lot. That was something that is pretty hard to keep up on. In year 13 it did get better. Obviously things got a bit more serious. So and because of that like discipline that I learned in A levels, I could then carry that forward into university. Like honestly, if I didn't do A levels, like if I didn't go to a sixth form, people complain that sixth forms are like so much like school. Like I should have gone to a college. But honestly, it prepares you so well for university because you have a structured day, 9 to 3, and you have to be in for that day. You have to wake up at a certain time, etc. And I'd say it helped a lot. I don't regret my decision of going to a sixth form or anything. So I think just like the discipline in general, it helped me in university. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. I wouldn't have been able to manage.
Yeah, no, 100%. I
Yeah,
think it helps. Every single stage in your life, one thing will definitely you take away is you build on whatever you've already learned and you learn from your mistakes. And I mean, life experiences are the best teachers in such circumstances like that. So you kind of know how to deal with it better in
definitely.
general anyway. Right. So I know we kind of talked about some of the stuff that you're doing right now and how it's helping you to kind of keep yourself organized. But in terms of studying neuroscience itself, what skills would you say you have developed through studying neuroscience that you think are valuable beyond the classroom?
Beyond the classroom, so because neuroscience is a very technical subject, I'd say I have definitely developed like my critical thinking and like
Hmm.
just and like analyzing things. So a lot of the things that we have to analyze research papers in our labs a lot. We have to look at studies and then interpret results. We have to end up writing our own reports and all of this that I learned from my classes. I was then now have a job at university as well. I work as a research assistant.
Okay.
So it's I'm a research assistant on an international project, and I'd say I only got that role because of these skills I learned just from attending my classes and doing the work
Mm,
efficiently. So now, as a research assistant, I'm able to apply my knowledge like on how to follow protocols, how to do a study effectively, because it involves a lot of things, troubleshooting and like dealing with participants, etc. So I'd say it's helped me, like this is like my first step towards building my career.
yeah. So, like you're saying, basically, a lot of the skills are directly transferable to what you're doing now, and it's really helped to kind of go into that role, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. So I know you mentioned about like when you during the time when you worked in Legoland, you talked about how seeing these sort of circumstances, kids behaving in a certain way. So would you say now that you've studied it a bit, well, you're in second year now, has studying like the brain in a bit more detail changed the way you see people or understand behavior?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question because now whenever I'm have any sort of social interaction, it's just like my brain just goes to neuroscience. Like, why is this person doing the way they are? Like, what are the mechanisms behind their actions?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, last year, my youngest brother was doing the 11 plus and my mom was the one tutoring him. So my mom's tutored all four of us. I have three brothers. So, and cause I'm not totally sure, but I think with the generation, like these kids usually go through like, you know how they have like tantrums, etc.,
Yeah.
like meltdowns every now and then. And I would always say like, oh, when I was doing my 11 plus, I never used to, be like that. If I'd get a question wrong, then, I didn't used to melt down over it. But then my dad would say that, what is happening inside him. You have to actually understand his behavior and what is happening inside his brain because he's a kid. His brain has not fully developed yet, and he's not able to regulate his emotions. Like that's just some. Then after some time, you just realize that like I looked at it from a different point of view that he's just a kid and he just doesn't know how to handle his emotions. Getting a question wrong, it's a big thing for him.
Yeah.
So I'm not able to understand him differently. Like it's just an example. You can apply it to like in every sort of situation. But yeah, also with, for example, like my granddad, he has Parkinson's. So as a result of that, he like my grandma makes him do like activities or like when we went over back home, he told us a lot about his life experiences, to try and recall and remember, because obviously Parkinson's is a form of dementia. And it's just like the brain making connections. I now understand that it's not like it's what's happening inside him, like what's happening to his brain. His neural links are just degenerating, and um,
It must be so tough as well because especially when you start to develop dementia with it, like must be really difficult.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd also say, just one point I remembered, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like as a result of this, I've also developed my like emotional intelligence. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's also a really like hot word on TikTok, Instagram right now, emotional intelligence. But also as a result of my studies, I'm able to read and regulate my own
Yeah.
emotions a lot more better, along
Yeah.
with other people's emotions. So I think I can read people really well.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see someone react in a way that is surprising to me, my first reaction isn't like that's a bit weird. Like, why has he just done that? I should think that why, like what's
Lead with
actually happening
curiosity,
inside
I would
him.
say. Lead with
Yeah,
curiosity so you can be
yeah,
like, okay,
exactly.
maybe there's more to this. Why is this person behaving that way? So it
Yeah,
gives you a
don't
better
just
kind
jump
of
to conclusions. Yeah,
exactly.
just
Yeah.
think
And I
what's
suppose
actually
you're probably in a
happening.
better position not to make judgments, let's say, but rather be like, okay, there's a reason behind this person behavior the way they are, or the way they may be acting or behaving, whichever it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah,
definitely.
no, that's really cool. So I'm sure you definitely will be better at reading people. I know there are some people generally they're quite good at reading people anyway, but once you
Yeah.
studied neuroscience, I reckon you'd have a much better, more academic way of kind of looking at it, I suppose. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool. And so that kind of brings on to my next question is, so say suppose you have like all of this knowledge now, what's a neuroscience fact that really blew your mind from all the reading that you've done over the last year or so? What's been like one particular fact that really kind of like made you like, wow, this is like phenomenal?
A neuroscience fact. There was something I read a few months ago, but we've actually only mapped, I'm not actually sure of the specific figure, but I think it's like 0.1 something percent of the brain. Like we literally don't know like like what the majority of the brain holds. And it's just like we only know like 0.1% of this nerve goes here because the brain is constantly changing, new neural connections are being made every single day.
Yeah.
We like there's just so much more to discover. We don't know a lot at all, and it's just so fascinating. It's like saying how we've only discovered like 5% of the ocean. It's the same like why we should be discovering more about ourselves and looking into who we are first rather than going to the moon, for example. Like that's the
Yeah.
That's the analogy people say, like, first discover the ocean, then go to the moon, then go to outer space, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's so much more to delve into itself. So the more research obviously needs to be done. And no, I agree. I can see what you mean. Like, there's so much more to do with our brain and everything else. It's hard to. No, fair play. I think. Okay, cool. So obviously you mentioned about how you have some really long days at university and on lectures you have to attend, and then you have like seminars, and you have all of the other stuff that you do pre-reading and then the assignments you have to do, and all the documents you have to. How do you stay motivated when things get tough academically?
How would I stay motivated? Honestly, I'd say a big part of it is coming back home because I commute. Like, I'm really blessed to be able to come back home after a long day, you know, come home, have a home cooked meal, you know, be able to relax in my own bed. I don't have any big responsibilities like how I would have if I was living by myself.
Hmm.
So I'd say just coming home and relaxing after a long day because my commute is pretty long and it does get very tiring. And it is hard to stay motivated, especially like juggling a part-time job along with studying, along with having a social life, extracurricular activities, etc. It does get hard, but I just say like my family grounds me. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think you need that support from somewhere and the
yeah.
right balance, because sometimes you're so much into the books and you're not kind of looking after yourself, and mental well-being is just as important, I think, because, for example, just to wind down after a long day helps to kind of just get yourself together and look ahead for the next day, kind of in a kind of in that sort of time to kind of give yourself a bit of a rest, I suppose. Yeah, so fair enough. I think going home and unwinding and having that sort of space to do that is helpful. Yeah.
Other people my age, you know, who also go to university but who live in accommodation, like I've heard that they're just struggling to make ends meet, which I couldn't imagine to be in that position. Even if they do get like a maintenance loan along with a part-time job, they're just covering their rent.
Yeah.
You can't do anything else at
It
all.
can
Like,
be really tough financially because you're having to juggle between rent and then the next meal you're going to have almost sometimes, and
yeah,
it's
and
not
then on top
easy.
of that, you have to study for your degree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
I'm very lucky
Yeah.
to be at home. So
No, I absolutely understand that. Especially in London as well, it's so expensive everywhere, like rent
yeah,
wise and food and everything.
definitely.
So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of current A-level students who are thinking maybe pursuing a degree in neuroscience or other science-based degrees in general, what advice would you give to them?
What advice would I give? So I can probably just say for neuroscience and psychology. So I'd definitely say, um, what would I say? I'd say just be curious. Like that's what my how my love for neuroscience started because I was just curious about what's happening around me, you know, and I was observing things around me as well, like even my friends say I'm pretty observant, you know, I'm constantly looking, I'm very aware of my surroundings. On top of that, I'm always questioning like why is this happening, you know, or you know, why has this person had this sort of reaction? So I'd say like definitely just be more curious about the world and like you should be. I think everyone should be. And then it's these small experiences and like something as small as just having a social interaction, you know, just a friend or anyone. And yeah, I'd say if you're just interested for it, definitely go for it. There's a lot to learn, and it's definitely an advancing career, like in the future. Like neuroscience is the future. You know, some of the other sciences are like being like neuroscience is taking over. It's a very like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean that actually, you know what you said, it takes me right next thing I would want to ask you basically. So where do you see your studies leading you? Are there any particular career paths in neuroscience that excite you?
Yeah, so right now, after my undergraduate, I plan to do a master's in neuroscience. Sorry, a master's in cognitive neuroscience. That's like looking at AI and like technology, and also my family is also in computing. And ever since I started second year, we've been doing a lot of coding as well. So I personally really enjoy it. Some people don't, but I find it I like a challenge. You know, it's pretty challenging and it's something I haven't done before. So I definitely want to go into something that's like a combination of neuroscience and technology because it is the future. You know, probably like neuroengineering or neurotechnology. I
Yeah.
just
I suppose it's
find
the
it
way things are
fascinating.
going, isn't it? So if you're combining technology with the neuroscience thing, it's just like best of both worlds, and you get to
Yeah.
play with both sides of things in terms of
Or
your
perhaps
careers.
or perhaps something to do like AI, it's just crazy to imagine that just I don't know, like it's been 2, 3 years since ChatGPT has come out, and the way it's advanced so quickly, and just like AI in general. Now everyone uses ChatGPT for everything. You know, some people can't go a day without using it. It's like our new Google now, and it's just crazy to think that if the public have access to something like ChatGPT or other sorts of AI, then what do the government have access to? You know, like
Yeah, of
it's just very
course.
it's a very advancing, like, and it's advancing really quickly as well. So I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, 100%. I think, do you know what fascinates me the most? I would say, I don't know if I read something like this. I'm talking about a good 10 years ago now. And it was about how, when you look at nanoscience and you look at the kind of technology behind nanoscience, and they can literally put a computer chip in your brain. And that computer chip can literally you can literally someone else can have the same computer chip in their brain as well, put in, and they can feel the world around that person where they are. So for example, if you're in the Antarctica, you can feel what they're feeling from somewhere else completely different in the world. And if you think about it, back then it's like, oh, this is this even possible? Now thinking about it now, like with the neuroscience and the technology, the way it's developed over the years with AI and everything else, it's almost like it's going to happen very soon. And that's what it
Yeah,
feels like.
yeah,
And
definitely.
this was a long time ago when they were just talking about trialing, doing something with it because of the nanoscience that kind of developed that particular industry. How do you think neuroscience might change the world in, let's say, next 10, 20 years, or even 5 years? Because I think 10, 20 is a long way away. But let's say next 5 years, how do you
Yeah.
think neuroscience might change the world?
So like I said, it's going to advance very fast. Everything is going to go advance very fast. Like things that you thought were impossible like a few years back are going to become like an actual thing just in literally a few years. Like I said, ChatGPT used to be like if like 5, 10 years ago, it would be crazy, you know, to think that's something like that now it's a part of our daily life, and we've accepted it. And I just think in 5 to 10 years, I think like the boundary between the difference between a human mind and a machine mind will just not be there anymore. Like a machine will think like a human, and it's gonna be really quickly. Like we'll be, I think, probably like make new memories, you know, erase memories. Like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was something about we'll be able to like instead of like learning a new skill, we'll be able to download a skill into ourselves. You know, probably like chip in your brain. Like
Scary.
yeah, you won't have to learn how to drive a manual car. You just have to download it into your brain. You just know it. You know, you just become an entirely different person. And people say as well, like about the new British ID card that's running out soon.
Yeah.
Like people are really worried about that. You know, the government's gonna have access to our information, but 5, 10 years down, like I think there'll be like brain surveillance. You know, we're
Wow.
gonna have no privacy whatsoever,
I never
and
looked at it like
people,
that, but now that you say it, like I'm thinking about, like
yeah,
that's true. It is
like
possible.
they're gonna know what we're thinking, you know, and it's not just what our date of birth is. You know, that's nothing compared to what's coming 5 to 10 years.
That's mental.
Yeah, and movies like The Matrix or like Ready Player One, they're gonna be real. You know, episodes from
Yeah.
Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. This is scary just to think about it. Like, gosh.
Yeah,
And I
it
feel like
is
it's going to happen
scary,
within
but
our lifetime. I genuinely think that because of the way things are advancing, 100%.
definitely,
What so
definitely.
what are there any particular current research or breakthrough with some of those things you mentioned, like, or anything that in general in neuroscience that you find currently that's developing?
Not about anything I've mentioned, but I'm pretty sure you've heard of like the Neuralink, Elon Musk's
Yeah.
brain chip. So, I mean, that was a really big thing. Controversial, yes, but the neuroscience behind it was, I mean, it was crazy, you know, to think that you put a chip inside someone's brain and a paralyzed person can walk again, you know,
Yeah.
or a person who can't speak is able to speak, or,
Hmm.
you know, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
No,
So,
I read an article on that recently, and I was just thinking, wow, if this can work, that would be
yeah,
crazy.
like, and it's so close to working, like clinical trials have been done, you know, it's very, very close. Like, yeah, I think we should be scared.
Yeah, no, like I said, the future is
Yeah,
scary at the same time, but it's exciting as well because it can help people in a big way
yeah,
as well, you know?
yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
So, moving away from kind of the neuro or the sciencey part. So I'm going to go quickly into a little bit of a fun and relatable section. So if I was to ask you two questions between, let's say, brain or behavior, which fascinates you more?
Brain or behavior, that's hard to pick. I'd probably say behavior because that's something you can relate to. Obviously, I'm able to see it in real time. Like I said, why is this person doing something they're doing? With the brain, because you can't, it's complex, learning about it is pretty hard. You can't actually see it. Uh, so I'll definitely say behavior is just more fun to learn about, just more fun in general, really.
Okay. What about coffee, tea, or energy drinks during exams?
Coffee, tea, energy. I don't actually take any of them.
Do you not?
Yeah. I don't drink coffee or tea, and I don't have energy drinks as well. What do I do? I don't actually know. I don't really study late at night. I would say, well, when I study, it's in the morning, which I know sounds boring, but I
Yeah.
don't go very late at night. We have to stay up. It's never come to that sort of,
Okay.
yeah. But
Because I
even
know a lot of
then,
people would be on like energy drinks and staying up all night doing all-nighters and that kind of thing.
yeah, no, like it's a bit boring. But the only energy drink I've ever had is like a Lucozade. I've never had a Red Bull or anything.
Fair enough. To be
Yeah,
fair, they're just full of sugars and it's
yeah,
like,
it is.
yeah, not
I
the
don't want
best
to like
thing.
suddenly drink it and get addicted to it,
You
just
do get addicted to it though, because the sugar is addiction. And I think I was once upon a time one of those people that did take a lot of energy drinks and tea and coffee as
yeah,
well on top of that. So I used to be, yeah, it's not good because the amount of sugars it has in it, and you don't realize you take one can, it's
yeah,
got this like 6 spoons of sugar equivalent almost, and you're like, well, I just
yeah,
drank like three, four of
exactly.
those in one night, just
And
meant,
so easy to like take in sugar through like drinks, fizzy drinks,
yeah,
all that sort of stuff.
okay. So you're an early morning person, would you say, to study?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
One
I
scientist
think
you'd
it
love to
depends
meet, past or present.
on scientists I look to me. There's this podcast guy. His name's Andrew Huberman. He's an American neuroscientist, and he also specializes in podcasts. So, um, I watch his podcast with my dad sometimes. So I'd definitely like to meet him. He's a funny guy. You should definitely look into him.
I
Look at
will.
his
I'll
podcast
definitely.
if you can.
I've not come across him, so I will definitely. I do
Yeah,
generally watch quite a lot of different podcasts and what have you, but I haven't
yeah.
come across his one. I'll
He
definitely
was
check it out.
a guest on a Diary of a CEO's podcast.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
also something my
So
dad
he's
introduced me to.
fair enough. I'll
Yeah.
check it out. I'll definitely check him out.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's definitely like an influential person. You should
Hmm.
definitely look at him.
Well, if he's been on Diary CEO, then he must be. He must have done well. Let's
Yeah.
just say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Favorite study tip or productivity hack?
Favorite study tip. I'd definitely say reward yourself after small milestones, like I used to think that, oh, I need to finish this entire module in a week. But if I break it down, and if I should have said that I need to finish this chapter in the next few hours, and because you've set that goal for yourself, that once you complete that goal, you're gonna have like a dopamine release. You're gonna feel good, and then you should also reward yourself. I don't know, maybe have a chocolate, have something nice,
Yeah, reward
something like
yourself. I
that.
agree.
Yeah,
And I think for me, what I usually recommend is doing short study bursts. So like, don't do hours and hours worth. Maybe like 20, 30 minutes, take a break, and then do another 20, 30 minutes and take a break. As opposed to some people just go sit down for a full hour straight. And yeah,
no,
and
for
I
me
agree
that
that
actually didn't work. I tried using like the Pomodoro technique. It
yeah,
actually didn't work for me because
did it not? Okay.
going for 25 minutes, like getting into the like mindset of studying,
Mm.
and then taking a 5 minute break, you go on your phone and having to come back into the 25 minutes again. I don't know. It didn't work for me personally. I was a 1-2 hours sort of.
Okay. I think, do you know what it is? Everyone
Yeah,
is different. Every single
yeah,
person is unique, and
definitely.
some techniques will work for you, and other techniques will work better for others. And sometimes you have to try the different things. And I think it is something that I would love to talk about more. But maybe we can do another episode where we can talk about the different kind of the science behind the different revision techniques people find useful and beneficial. Maybe another time. But yeah, something that I want to do going forward. We'll come back to that another time and speak to others who are also using maybe some techniques similar to or different to yours to find out what works for them. But yeah, no, thank you for that tip because I think rewarding yourself, what you said after a long study session, definitely gives you that motivation to do it again the next time.
Yeah,
Brilliant,
definitely.
like positive reinforcement, a bit of psychology there. If you could spend a day using an MRI machine to study anything, what would you look at?
To study anything, probably like the prefrontal cortex, first brain parts coming to mind. It's a big part of a lot of decisions you make. So I'd say probably the prefrontal cortex. You know, you hear a lot about it. It's developing this and that, whatnot. So definitely that
Okay.
part of the brain. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much, Ramine. So that was Ramine sharing her experience as a neuroscience student and how her journey from A-level chemistry, biology, and psychology led her to explore the incredible world of the human brain. I loved hearing how her curiosity and how hard work and the willingness to explore different sciences have shaped her pathway to success. So thank you for joining me on this episode of Pathways to Success. If you enjoyed today's
Thank you for having me.
conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who might be thinking about their own next steps. Until next time, remember, every path is different, but they all lead to success when you follow your curiosity. So, Ramin, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise, and I'm hoping that a lot of people can actually learn from this episode. Any question they might have had about neuroscience and your journey into neuroscience as well, and some of the tips you shared about study habits that will help them as well. Because I know a lot of people will be thinking about other options than just medicine and dentistry. And I think neuroscience is such an amazing field to go into, but not enough people know about it. So I'm hoping that this will raise some awareness amongst students who may be looking at alternatives to those traditional subjects, let's say people that do at university. But yeah, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity today to share your journey. And I hope, anyone, listening from wherever you are, you have enjoyed this episode as well, like I have. Thank you.